Okay, so we are facing the official fascist regime in the US, as predicted by Noam Chomsky. And I was reading today how they started in 2020 to kidnap peaceful protesters um, from unmarked vans by federal agents in masks without identification. People who were walking down the sidewalk were getting kidnapped. And so the success of that was expanded by Trump, and now they're challenging citizenship in the US that can be overturned by a civil decision by the Department of Justice. So it's quite fascinating to go over the history of citizenship, and once you lose citizenship, then you can lose a lot of your legal rights. Of course, the law has been pretty much shredded already, and so we are in a crisis moment. But basically, you have the Trump regime trying to revert back to the 1790s in the US, which is naturalization limited to any, quote, free white person. And I didn't know about this. I didn't know that naturalization had been limited to any free white person. But I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, I'm sure I had read that before, but you forget just how blatant. I mean, of course, that was still during slavery. So, but the what I like to point out is that legal corporations are, quote, legal people, and in 1819 the contract clause was invoked of the Constitution to deny democratic control of the corporate charter for Dartmouth. 1819 contract clause. So ever since 1819, the Supreme Court ruled the contract clause of the U.S. Constitution protects private corporations from government interference, and that the contract clause between Dartmouth College and the King of England, or the British Crown, was protected by the U.S. Constitution, and the New Hampshire legislature attempt to amend the Dartmouth Charter and make the college a public institution was unconstitutional. This decision established that private corporations are protected under the contract clause, and it significantly limits states' abilities to modify private charters. So the real problem is legal people, because this got expanded for corporations to then be protected by the Bill of Rights and to be declared legal people. But it really started in 1819. So you can see there's this dynamic of corporate fascism has always existed in the U.S. Ever since that 1819 ruling by the Supreme Court. And so, and then it goes right along with this attack against the naturalization of non-white people. So you have natural people who are non-white, and then you have that are considered illegals, and then you have legal people as corporations that are above the Constitution and protected by the Bill of Rights. So that's the essence of corporate fascism, because the sovereign king decides what the law is. And so this problem has been going on in the U.S. Since it's always been going on. It never. This is the point of Noam Chomsky about the U.S. Constitution. He has a new book about it that I ordered. I got it on my computer here. But let me see. I forgot what it was called. Power Systems. Is this the book? Failed States. I think this might be it. But anyway, his point is that the U.S. Constitution was always, created by the elite and for the elite and against democracy. So, yeah, it's not that one. But the Constitution was framed to thwart the democratic aspirations of most of the public, says Noam Chomsky. Between Trump's White House and the Republican, we are now witnessing the impact of that imbalance. So, according to popular conception, the U.S. is a nation of immigrants. Yet the truth of the matter has been ongoing since the origins of the Republic. Trump's diatribes successfully inflame his audience. White supremacy is nothing new in the U.S. As late as the 1960s, the U.S. had anti-miscegenation laws. It goes back to the country's origins. The Declaration of Independence describes the merciless Indian savages. See, I didn't even know that quote is in the Declaration of Independence. Germans and Swedes were barred because they were too swarthy. I didn't know that either, because I'm German and Swedish. So you had the Anglo-Saxon myth. The first Naturalization Act restricted. I wonder if the Naturalization Act restricted Germans and Swedes. No, it did not. Okay. While classifying the Germans or Irish as non-white was a manner to limit their access to citizenship, I never knew that Germans were classified as non-white. That's just wild. I knew the Irish were. Oh well. Okay, so yeah, it's Basically, my whole point is that this is a denial. Like when you have this attack against Medicaid, you have a trillion dollars in cuts of Medicaid, but then you have $1 trillion in increased expenses from global warming, extreme weather in the past year. So the point is like if you can't confront global warming, the damage, then you have to, because of the psychological denial, you have to repress it and then project it onto some other issue, which of course in this case is you know, poor people, um, and non-white, so-called non-white workers that are, when obviously, I mean, the working class and the middle class is what drives the economy. But anyway, so okay. So 1924, the immigration law barred Jews and Italians. See, I didn't know that Jews were like legally barred. It's The 1924 law remained in place until 1965. 1980s, immigration began to be criminalized. So obviously, like the unions are pointing out that the so-called the tax breaks are just being used for stock buybacks, because once they started paying CEO salaries with stock options, then the CEOs are like, okay, we'll just keep investing in the stock value through stock buybacks. We'll reinvest profits back into stock buybacks, which just increases the stock value and therefore increases the CEO wealth. And it's creates the illusion of a successful company or corporation, even though the stock buyback is just decreasing the amount of stock and therefore increasing its value. It's not based on any success of the corporation. So the Electoral College, so there's all sorts of problems with so-called democracy in the U.S. And now Greg Palast has his Vigilantes Incorporated documentary proving that millions of votes were purged in the last election. And so the claim is like, oh, the midterms will save us, but actually we haven't had a decent election since Gore was excluded by the Supreme Court, canceling the vote count in Florida back in 2000. And that was right after I talked to Vice President Gore about his contradictions in his environmental policy. Okay, I gotta get going.